श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम सर्वेभ्यः सुस्वागतम् प्रार्थनां कृत्वा कक्षां प्रारम्भं करिष्यामः। ओम ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुरुरेव गतिर्गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो। वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। हरिः ओम्। सर्वेभ्यः द्वितीयकक्षायां सुस्वागतम्। Okay, good. Okay, so just to quickly recap what we did last week, lot of enthusiastic questions and lot of enthusiastic thoughts. So we did what is called Anubandha Chatushtayam. That is basically what is the subject that we are going to learn, what is the context under which we are going to learn this, who are eligible to learn this, that is the eligibility criteria or prerequisites. The fourth one was what is the benefit, what is the course outcomes, learning objectives, learning outcomes, course objectives, etc. So let's quickly recap what we did in about 5 minutes. It's called the Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika. Question and answers. It's a set of about 67 shlokas answering 182 questions. It covers various aspects of economics, material well-being, public well-being and policy. Then what happened? Minute. Okay, I think I need to spotlight myself and I'll be okay. Yeah, okay. Public well-being and policy, human psychology. Then it also talks about interpersonal relationships, and then a lot about self-evolution. Okay, so this is what the subject is all about. In terms of, if we move on, of course, there is a lot of things about conflict resolution, which we will discuss. Contextually, what it means, it's in the context of what is called Sanatana Dharma. And we saw a lot on this and said Sanatana Dharma is nothing but eternal sustainability. The concept of eternal sustainability is what is Sanatana Dharma. Dharma happens to be the conceptual framework. Karma happens to be the operational framework. Human beings are endowed with free will. That's the second thing that we came up with, as against animals who do not have that free will. And so they are obliged to a level of higher responsibility towards sustainability. So what is that dharma? We said there is a purushartha concept, which is dharma, artha, kama. And then there is a society or a group of families. Societies are a group of families and not individuals. That is to each other. How do we interact, transact with one another in society? Is a group through a group of families. So families interact or individuals interact. When the individuals interact, you are a representative of the family at any level. That is our understanding of societies. Purushartha, of course, we understood those are individual transactions and how do I fulfill my own desires. This was something that we discussed in the last session. And this is what we summarized it to be. That is basically Manushya Dharma. Emphasis is given to Brahmacharya and Grihastha. That is basically the family life. And then purifying our mind through day-to-day activities. How do we go about purifying our mind through day-to-day activities? That is the focus of this discussion. All right. Then Adhikarina, what is the eligibility criteria? Commitment to a sustainable way of life. That's Sanatana Dharma. Consider being born as a human being as a blessing. Then committed to purifying one's own mind. Hence, through that, evolve spiritually. Shraddha, a deep-hearted commitment to contemplate upon the teachings. This is very, very important. Manana. And our assessment criteria, one of the assessment criteria will also be this. Implement them as they feel, as they fit in appropriate situations. Willing to question, contemplate, and give up contemporary dogmas that we are seeing today. I'll show some of them in today's session. We'll go through them in some detail. Okay. Expected learning outcome, critical thinking. How do we, what is Manushya Dharma? What is this Dharma? What is this all about? How do we come about with this sustainable framework? How do we work around this framework? Work within this framework. That is the concept. Uh, Frameworks to have peace of mind in the thick of action, some experiential practice. This is what is the learning outcome. This is where we stopped last week. Okay. With this, what we are now going to do is step into the first shloka of the 67 shlokas of Acharya's Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika. Okay. So the first shloka reads, Kah khalo nalang kriyate drishta drishta artha sadhana patiyan amuya kantastitaya Prashnottara-Ratna-Malikaya. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll also do a bit of padacheda here because it can be a little complicated for people who are new to Sanskritam. Ideal way of looking at Sanskritam is basically look for the verb and with the verb start asking all questions of what, who, where, why, when, etc. In this case, it happens to be alankriyate. If I do the padacheda, it comes as kaha khalu na alankriyate drishta adrishta artha sadhana patiyan. This whole thing is one word. Okay. Drishta adrishta artha sadhana patiyan. One samasta pada. I'll just explain what it is. Amuya kantastitaya prashna uttara ratna malikaya. This prashna uttara ratna malikaya is also one word. Okay. Kaha, who, khalu, who would or who would, in this case na is there, so who would not want to be adorned, alankriyate, who would not want to be, you do alankara, adorned with what? Adorned with something that will bring about drishta. So drishta adrishta. So this word drishta and adrishta are a little, we take them for granted in a lot of times. What happens is, so there is a question, what is dharma? Artha is income. We have discussed what is dharma in the last class. Please take a look at the video. So that is my short answer. After in the question answer session, probably we can take a longer answer. Okay. Okay. Drishta and adrishta. See, this translation into English becomes a lot of is a problematic statement. Okay, this drishta is not blind, is not just seeing. Okay, so and then there is this adrishta. Adrishta is like, in Kannada they say on adrishta keddagittu, or his adrishta is not good. So what is this drishta? Drishta will just, let's look at that for a minute. Okay. Drishta will be everything in the realm of all sensory observations. That is, if I smell upma being made somewhere nearby, that is also in the realm of drishta. I'm not seeing the upma being made, but I'm smelling the nice fragrance of it. That is still drishta. All the five sensory perceptions that we can get are all drishta. What we call pratyaksha pramana. Pratyaksha is not necessarily what is seen. Pratyaksha means all that can be sensed, grasped by the sensory organs. That is basically, if I hear some ambulance going behind me, there is also drishta. I can figure out that is coming from some direction. It is there. I don't need to physically see it to begin with. Drishta is that. Adrishta is something that is beyond this. That is beyond these four sense of understanding. If I don't get it, I call that adrishta. Drishta and adrishta. Okay. So that is the definitions that we come up with drishta and adrishta here. So adrishta artha sadhana patiyan. That's what we defined this, right? That is drishta adrishta artha sadhana patiyan. Patu. It comes from the root patu. So we'll look at what it means. So if I were to translate this into English, it will come to who wouldn't want to be adorned with those forms and means that shall empower us to achieve all states of well-being. Artha is states of well-being. Okay. We would want to be, obviously, we all want to be all states of well-being here means that, I want to be well-being in the material plane, in the spiritual plane, in the satisfactory plane, in the contented plane, all forms of it. Now, if I want to be doing that, I can do it through what is drishta, that is what is within, in some sense, within my sensory control and perception. And then those that are not within my sensory grasp. Okay, how do I achieve all this? So to put it right, it will be the right word to call drishta is cognitive. What is cognitive is drishta. What is incognitive or non-cognitive is adrishta. Okay. Something that will empower me to be to my well-being in both the cognitive state and the incognitive state. Do I want to be adorned with it? Definitely. So please tell me what it is. That is the first shloka. It says, how do you do that? It is by committing to memory. Kantastitaya. Kantastitaya is something that I can reproduce with my vocal cord. How can I reproduce something with my vocal cord? Only if something is there in my memory. If I have committed something to my memory, then I can actually reproduce that through my vocal cord. Kantha is throat. So basically kantastitaya, which I can reproduce through I can repeat even after having committed. So that is what it is. What am I committing? The garland, Malika, the garland that is formed by these questions and answers. The herein is basically implied. Okay. So this is the first opening shloka of Adi Shankaracharya. He says, hey, you know what? Maybe you want to adorn yourself with a set of question and answers, commit them to memory. You know what that will do? That is going to empower you to get to a state of well-being. And that well-being is not just in the state of that is known through sensory perceptions, even that is beyond what is not within my cognition, state of incognitive states. So welcome on board. I'm going to take you through that journey. That's what Acharya is saying here. And once Acharya says this, let us see how he takes us through this journey. All right. So with this, if you have any questions, please hold on. We'll open the question answer session towards the end of this whole end of this session. That's about in an hour. Okay. So with this, let's move on to the first question that Acharya throws at us and look at those questions. Let's look at the first question answer shloka that comes through. Okay. Bhagavan kimupadeyam guruvachanam heyam api kim akaryam ko guruho adhigata tattvaha shishyahitaya udyataha satatam. Okay. This is the first shloka. So let me do again the padacheda and explain each of these. Okay. It says Bhagavan. Bhagavan. Bhagavan is a salutation. Hey Bhagavan. Hey Bhagavan. Kim upadeyam. Kim is the question. What? Upa is something that is close. Upavasa. I go near and do some, I am visiting and staying near something. Upavasa. Upa adeya. What shall I embrace? What is it that I should, what is it that I shall embrace always? What shall always be embraced? That is the question. First question. And it says, Guru Vachanam, Guru's ideals and teachings. He says, whatever the Guru says, whatever his ideals are, it is in letter and spirit. Essentially, don't just blindly take what he says and then take them and go forward, but what the way his conduct is. Follow his ideals, follow his conduct, his or her conduct. That is what becomes ideals and teachings. Follow them. All right. So that is Guru's ideals and teachings. Kim Upadeyam. What shall always be embraced? Guru's ideals and teachings. Okay. So the next question that comes. What shall be given up? If I need to embrace something, I may be holding on to something else. What should I give up then? Hey, became give up. What shall be given up? Given up? Akaryam. What is akaryam? Acts that are against the Shastras. There are a lot of Shastras that are written. What are Shastras? Basically, we have a set of Shastras that are put out. I'll bring what are the Shastras in probably one of the classes. I'll showcase the knowledge system that we have as what we call today as, Indian knowledge system. That encompasses or exhaustively creates the entire Shastras. That is not just what is written or what is codified. There are so many things that are Shastras, even in say that are traditional, that comes as passed on from generation to generation. How do you cook a particular food? Somebody teaches in the kitchen. That is a Shastra for that family. That is something that is done. If you don't do it this way, there is something not going right. You may be experimenting, but within the bounds of experimentation, you may live. But there is something, they say this. Uh, I like to give this. My favorite example is what is called turmeric latte. I found this somewhere in some country. I went to Starbucks and they said turmeric latte. When I read the description, it literally translated to haldi wali doodh. Now, haldi wali doodh or turmeric milk is what something that we have been using for over and over and over again, and that's part of Shastras. But then, it translates to turmeric latte, and that sounds very interesting. So, so now, when do you drink turmeric milk? When do you not drink turmeric milk is all something that is codified in the family, that comes to the family and how it is taken. So you need to be taking it with everything with the right sense. So what is taught by the Guru, take that with a lot of Shraddha and a lot of Bhakti, and don't act against those Shastras as taught to you by your Guru. What is told as don't do it. Okay. In fact, it's a very interesting thing because we are starting, this is the Ashada, the 15 days time. Incidentally, that also happens to be a Thursday. We'll be celebrating Vyasa Purnima or Guru Purnima. We'll talk a lot about the Guru on that day as well. But today, it's a very auspicious day to begin a discussion on the Guru. So that day we'll take a discussion in a different direction. Today, there's a particular direction I've presented it. So let's go and ask. So, okay, you told me all these things. Guru Vachanam, I shall follow the Guru. I shall do that. Okay, I shall not act against the Shastra. That also accepted. Now, this question that I am going to simply ask is, who is my Guru? How do I find that Guru? That doesn't work, right? I can't go on a street and just say, hey, you are going to be my Guru from now on. Doesn't work that way. You need something very concrete to say that, yes, what is this Guru? Acharya reads our minds like he can read anybody else. So he just says, Kaha Guru ho? Very next question. Who is the Guru? That is the question asked. So let's look at who is the Guru. Kaha Guru ho? He says two important criteria for having of that Guru. One is Adhigata Tattvaha. One who is in the one is in reveling in that realized knowledge. If I were to put it situationally, one who can act the right way, who always knows how to act in the right way. We'll discuss this in very long detail today. Okay. Second, and this is more important than the first one, eternally striving towards the disciples' welfare. That is, Shishya Hitaya Udyataha Satatam. Shishya Hitaya, Chaturthi Vibhakti. Shishyasya Hitaya. Okay. Shishya Hitaya. Udyataha, who works. Shishya Hitaya Udyataha. Satatam is eternal. Okay. Let me read the shloka again. Bhagavan kim upadeyam guruvachanam heyam apikim akaryam ko guruho adhigata tattvaha शिष्यहिताय udyataha satatam. That is the meaning of the shloka. Okay. Now the question is, this is one level of understanding. Good. Let's look a little deeper of what Acharya Shankara himself has said and also from elsewhere. What comes up about the Guru? A lot of discussion has happened about the Guru in our teachings. So first thing that comes up, and Acharya Shankara himself says this, how do I get a Guru? When the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. That is first definition given. Having done that, what is the Guru Parampara in our Sanskriti? Let's look at the word Guru itself. Gukarah tu, andhakarah tu, rukarah tejah. Here I should. Okay. Rukarah tejochyate. Rukarah teja uchyate. Andhakara nirodhatvat guruhu iti abhidiyate. Okay. Gu refers to andhakara, denoting darkness. Okay. Ru denotes radiance. Tejaha. So there's a difference between radiating and radiance. Radiance is energy-filled radiations. Radiance. Now, as we all know, once some light is shown upon darkness, darkness does not exist anymore. So that is why andhakara nirodhatvat. One who takes away the andhakara. How does it take it out? With the radiance of knowledge. That is what is Guru. That is the definition of a Guru. That's how the word Guru comes to be formed. Okay. Then, this is something that I want to talk about. We are talking a lot about family. So, every family comes with a Gotra. Now, what is this Gotra? In some sense, you can call it the family DNA. Of course, that is there. That's when fundamental. That's something on the that is just on the physical side. But that is not what Gotra system is only about. It's lot deeper. Any Gotra system has a lineage of 3 or 5 or 7 rishis. You can go back and check. For instance, I would say Angirasa, Mahi, Avarakshaya, Traya Rishaya. So there are the 3 rishis through which I come through. Then there is the Gotrodbhava. 60 Gotrodbhavas are there, and that is the Gotra that you get. Swadhantra Kapi Gotra. Swadhantra Kapi was a rishi. That rishi started this whole thing, and all the teachings as per codified by that rishi, that is what I am going to follow. That is what comes as the Gotra. So the difference between our scheme of things and the Semitic, Western and other schemes is that we don't start with, I don't say it doesn't exist. We don't start with I am the great grandson of so and so and so and so and so. No, that is not what we start with. We start with our lineage of worshipping the Guru. First step. Kashyapa Guru, Kashyapa Rishi or Vasishta Rishi. 60 of them are there, and one of these you will fall into one of them. Okay. That is our family. That is the preach. That is the teachings of whom we follow the conduct as laid by them, as it comes. And within that, there are Traya Rishayaha, Pancha Rishayaha, Sapta Rishayaha. So they have modified, they have done a lot of work and put out. This is what is to be followed. Okay. So this is something that we give as a commemoration to our lineage of where the teachings come from. So as I was saying, Bharatiya Samskritehe, I said this. Bha is again radiance. Rata is knowledge. So we are a society. We radiating knowledge. In that Samskriti we have come. And how does this knowledge radiate through? It radiates through the gurus. Simple. So to get to that, that's what Acharya Shankara is saying. The guru has to be of the highest standard of that, gold standard or whatever you want to call that standard. So it has to be of the guru standard. So I'll have to put it as guru standard because Rama Ravana yor yuddha, Rama Ravana yor iva. So there is no comparison to that yuddha. So similarly, Gahanam Gaganakaram, Sagaram Sagarotpamam. So if you want to compare the ocean, you have to compare it with another ocean only. So a guru has to be compared with a guru only. You can't compare it with anything else. So that is the parampara that we have. Now let us see, there is a in the Yagyavalkya Smriti, Yagyavalkya defines this exact sense. He said, Shishya hitaya udyataha satatam. Who is that person who will always be looking out for the student's welfare? Who are those people who will be doing that? Yagyavalkya in Yagyavalkya Smriti lists 5 people. He says, Guravaha Pancha Sarvesham. Everybody has 5 gurus. And where does he get this from? He says, Chaturnam Shrutish Choditaha. All the Vedas have said this. It's present amongst the Vedas. From the Vedas, I'm picking this. That's what he says. Acharyaha Pitarau Chaiva Matulaha Shvashuras Tatha. These are the 5 people he lists out. 1. Acharya. Mata Pitaro, father and mother, parents. 2. That makes it 3. Cha Eva. Matulaha, maternal uncle. We all have a strong bondage with the maternal uncle at some level. That's always there. Okay. Shvashuraha Tatha, father-in-law. These are your 5 teachers in life. Take them for granted. They are there. Then he qualifies, further qualifies. Tesha mukhyastrayaha proktaha. Of these, the first 3 are more important than the other 2. Who are they? Acharyaha Pitaro. That is Acharya and Mata Pita. Okay. So these are more important. Then he says, Tesham Mukhyatama. The most important one, Ekaha Acharyaha Parikirtitaha. This is what our Shruti says. So please follow this dharma. Okay. The 5 gurus in our life, they are basically Acharya, parents, mother and father, maternal uncle, and the father-in-law. The hierarchical order of importance, Acharya, then come parents, then come the maternal uncle and the father-in-law. Please take them as your guru and look at them as a guru. This is what the Yagyavalkya has said in his Smriti, and this is very, very important, and I'll show you why this is very important as well. In Ramayana, everything was, as my guru Professor Mahadevan puts it, Ramayana is a normative text. Okay, that is basically an ideal situation where everything will go right. And you are following dharma, and you have to follow certain things. The situation around you will sort of transpire to get you there. Okay. Mahabharata is a descriptive text. That's basically when everything in your surroundings can also go wrong. So all the gray areas will start coming in. So let's look at something that happens when, the gurus are not rightly ordained to our set of how the gurus should be. Adhigata tattvataha. First thing, Shishya hitaya satatam, or not in always in that state. What happens? Let us see what happens in such states. The best example is nowhere but in Mahabharata. So first thing, the catastrophe that strikes with improper guidance. Okay. So let us see what happens. The throughout the Mahabharata war, say from Draupadi's Vastraharana till the war, the behavior of these people is what defined the whole thing. Okay. In Mahabharata, Acharyas, Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, they were all Acharyas. None of them stepped in when Draupadi's Vastraharana was happening. They should have taken the higher stance and done something. Did not happen. Second level, parents, Gandhari and Dhritarashtra should have guided, done something. Maternal uncle, of course, the less spoken, the better. Shakuni for Duryodhana was actually guiding him to do something that was totally against the interests of everyone. Duryodhana's interest as well as everybody's interest. Okay. Wrong counsel. Father-in-law. In the case of Draupadi, after Pandu had died, probably Dhritarashtra was sitting in that place. In fact, she trusted Dhritarashtra to step in when Vastraharana was happening. She, in fact, cries out to Dhritarashtra as Shashura. Nothing. No response. Breakdown of all schemes of all forms of things. The only reasonable voice in the entire courthouse on that day happened to be that of Vidura. He said, nothing doing, this is not happening, I need to step out. I'll go. Or rather, this does not befit, I'll fight or I'll go. He was kicked out and it went. And hence, he never had to fight the war. If you look at everybody else, they had to face the consequences of having to go through. Dhritarashtra and Gandhari had to live a life without children in a state where they were living with Bhima, who was insulting them on day in and day out. So lots of things had a lot of problems. Catastrophe will strike if there is improper guidance from these people. It's very, very important that we take them seriously. Okay. So this is one level. Now, I said there is a bit of policy things that can come in from this. I'll tell you what happens when improper guidance is given at state and policy. This is at least at a family level, at some level, extended family fight leading to some consequences. What will happen if improper guidance is given at the state of a state or the king or somebody like that? Let's see what happens. Okay. So I will bring in what is called, I don't know how many of you have heard this name. There's a person, this person happens to be Bahuka. Bahuka is, I'll give you the story, a little bit of a story. Before that, we need to understand. Krishna Avatara was there to, for killing Kamsa and Shishupala. Right? Now, Kamsa gets very agitated when he hears that the eighth son is already born and Krishna is is already in Vrindavana, so something has to be done. So he goes to his friend in Mithila and Magadha, who is basically Jarasandha. Jarasandha says, first and foremost, marry my daughters, I'll protect you. So, in some sense, Kamsa becomes the son-in-law of Jarasandha. He is the son-in-law of Jarasandha. He marries them and starts tormenting all the Yadus and everyone. So one thing that strikes him is, first thing it's, he needs to get Krishna, who is a baby as yet, to be killed. So he tries to reach out to Putna. He gets to Putna, who is the Rakshasi, to kill him. At that time, Jarasandha says, at that time, before that, he asks Jarasandha a question, a very interesting question. the thing is that my kingdom, that is Mathura, nobody ever likes me. But then in Magadha, Mithila and Magadha, all of them love you. All of them care for you. How is that possible? That's the question that he asks Jarasandha. Now, Jarasandha, being the father-in-law, says, yes, you're right. That happens. That is because of the state policy of one of my teachers, come ministers, from advisors or whatever, called Bahuka. So Bahuka, and then he says, you should meet when you're meeting Putna to get this. That's the short-term fix. You should also meet Bahuka. That's where he puts it. So where does this come? It's there in the Bhagavata. The thing is, with Bhagavata, the recent versions of Bhagavata, I have not seen the shlokas. The shlokas that I have got, and I've summarized the shlokas, I have not brought the shlokas also. These shlokas are there in, if that I've taken are from this K.M. Munshi has written a book, Krishna Avatara. In that, he quotes some versions of Bhagavata, and those versions of Bhagavata have these. So if you look at it, it's in the 10th canto or the 10th Dashame Skande, Tritiya atva Chaturte Pathe. Either in the third or the fourth chapter, depending on the version of Bhagavata you take. These shlokas, this conversation between Kamsa and Bahuka is taking place. So I'll just show you what the policies that Bahuka suggested to Kamsa. So this is Bahuka's way to societal distraction. He says, open the state treasury to people, give them freebies. That freebie culture, and I can relate to it. A lot of it I can relate to what is happening in India or in the world over today. One of the things that was opposed and should not have been given was by Alan Greenspan in the Treasury in 2008 during the global financial crisis, bailout packages. I don't know why it was given, but then, yeah, I don't think Milton Friedman would have ever agreed to that sort of a bailout package. But then it was given. Freebie culture, create a freebie culture. It works. Teach them to eat, drink, and enjoy themselves. Essentially, give them free food. Stop cooking at home. Create a credit-based society, and then it's all chaos all over, right? Break up families. Third advice. How do you do that? Tell people that chastity or being committed to family life is not worth the cost of sexual pleasure. You need to go, you can do whatever you want, you will live. Life is only about that. That was the third advice he gave. Fourth advice, teach children to disrespect parents. See them as old and useless. Disrespect their views as dogmatic. Throw them out of the house. We have a lot of senior living coming up these days. You go to Coimbatore, it's full of senior living. A lot of people have come to me as well to ask for, can you do some surveys around senior living as a business model? That's where it is. Now, if you implement this as a state policy, see, at individual level, some children may not like their parents, which is understandable, which is like still solvable. Some elders will come, tell them, this is not this way, your parents have taken care of you. So there is something that patch up happens. But if you promote that as a state policy and say, what, I'll let all the children throw out their parents. I'll not let them respect. I don't mind if they don't respect their parents. That is a scenario that you're asking for trouble. Then, of course, you don't follow what is to be followed in society. And what is the consequence of something like this? I'll show you which is very common. He, in fact, describes the consequences of these. And that's very similar to what we are seeing in a lot of sense today. First thing, people will stop looking at ascetics as deranged, as though they are useless. Some learned people, useless people. Let them be what they are. People will people laugh at those who talk of duty. You should be committed to work, hardworking, shraddha, tapas. You should do a lot of these things. No, at the end of it, my end justifies the means. Right? We all get into that end justifying the means argument. The moment you get into end justifying the means, it is gone. Okay. It is very well implemented in a lot of places. Okay. Then, as a result of this, what is it that the ruler gains? Why should the ruler implement this? That is the thing that he gives here. Men start behaving like well-fed cattle. There is no free will remaining anymore. He is at the mercy of the ruler. So you become uncomplaining beast. I am being fed, free food is being given, I am going to be eating. And he goes on to say, Yadi tadayati tadapi vartate. If you give them two lashes, you lash them with a whip, they will still be working for you. They'll not run away because you are well fed, you are just a loyal dog. This is the policy that will ruin you. Improper guidance. And we are heading in a lot of ways to this. So that is where I wanted to bring in the guru's role of what happens when we get into this. Okay. So with this, we have completed one shloka. We'll do one or two more shlokas today and then we will take some questions. Okay. I'll stop. I'll go with one more shloka. Let's go with one more shloka. Okay. Says, त्वरितं किं कर्तव्यं विदुषाम् संसार सन्ततिच्छेदः किं मोक्षतरो बीजं सम्यग् ज्ञानं क्रियासिद्धिम्. Okay, let's do somebody said I should read the shloka. I'll read the shloka once more. त्वरितं किं कर्तव्यं विदुषां संसार सन्ततिच्छेदः किं मोक्षतरोर्बीजं सम्यग् ज्ञानं क्रियासिद्धिम्. Okay, so the question is, Tvaritam kim kartavyam vidusham. What is it that wisdom urges us to be done swiftly? What is it? Tvaritam is swift, fast. Jhatiti, as fast as possible. Kim kartavyam, vidushams, urges. What is to be done swiftly and fast? Urge, that urge. What is that urge that we should always have? It says, samsara santati chedaha, ending the cycle of birth and death. We keep on going through this. This is a karmic cycle. When we talk of karma in some class, I'll bring about this cycle of birth and death and how it is explained in our Shastras. Very detailed explanations come through various Upanishads. In fact, Chandogya Upanishad has a detailed description of how it happens, when you leave, through what part of your body you leave, and then how you come back to a different body, how you accept a body, how you reject the body. All these things are very detailed explained. Someday we probably will take it up. Okay. So getting out of this cycle of birth and death is what should be taken up upfront. Take it. Do it fast. Don't wait ever. Okay. So that means get moksha. So first step is saying, accept that you need to get out of this birth and death cycle. So the next one is, Kim moksha taroho bijam. What is the seed of the tree of liberation? Where do I find this seed? Where do I get it? Is it readily available? Samyagyanam kriyasiddhim. True knowledge applied to right action. Essentially, what it is saying is, okay, I think it is a little, I have to explain this a little. Attain purity of mind. That is your seed. Attaining purity of mind is what is the seed towards moksha. So, in fact, mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. Manusmriti says that very, very clearly. Your mind is either your friend or your foe. It is what causes you to be attached to something and endlessly get into the cycle of birth and death or get liberated. The mind is the key element. We'll talk about mind a little more today. Okay. So this is what it says. Vidusham Arjas. Okay. Okay. So let's get to this. Moksha sadhana bijam, realizing oneself. I brought this in the initial lecture of Acharya Shankara sometime, but let me just recap it for those who have not attended that session. It says, Viveka Chudamani, in Viveka Chudamani, he says, what happened to this? Why it is stuck? Yeah. Yeah. चित्तस्य शुद्धये कर्म न तु वस्तु उपलब्धये वस्तु सिद्धिर्विचारेण न किंचित कोटि कर्मभिः. The karma, the act that you do is to purify your mind. The jnana is what is referred to here as vastu. Vastu siddhihi. How do you get vastu siddhi? Vicharena. Through contemplation. To deep understanding of yourself is what you understand. By that you get to that jnana. Once you get that jnana, you are liberated. Okay. But to do that, there is a necessary condition. The necessary condition is chittasya shuddhi. The chittasya shuddhi happens to karma. Okay. One needs jnana. Jnana can never be achieved merely through actions. It is not a sufficient condition, but though it is a necessary condition. Okay. All activities, why is it that it cannot be achieved through action? It cannot be achieved through action because it is directed outwards. All our actions are directed outwards. Even if we are doing something for others, the action is essentially outwards. So that pursuing that journey inwards is what is vichara. Contemplation, deep contemplation of ourselves. That is what is lead us to this self-radiating, lead us to the self-radiating self. Okay. So yeah, it's a little bit of words. Hold on till there. We'll discuss that as we go on in this. We'll discuss a lot about this. So that is what will lead to mukti or moksha. Chittasya shuddhaye karma. So purifying the mind. That is what is needed. So then my question can come, if it is only about vastu siddhir vicharena, if I were to only contemplate, I can sit and do that all day, no? 24/7, 365, I can just sit into contemplation. Can it happen? Unfortunately, no. Acharya himself comes and says, don't follow that path. That is not what it is. That is not the path of sustenance. That is not the path you are on. Chittasya kriya siddhihi. What is kriya siddhi is explained in Acharya Shankara's Bhagavad Gita Bhashya. Okay. There is a vivido hi vedokta dharmaha pravritti lakshanaha nivritti lakshanaha cha jagataha sthiti karanam. That is basically there are two dharmas, as somebody has pointed out this out in the group as well. One is pravritti lakshana, the sustainable ways of the world. The world has to move forward, that has to keep on going. That is for the external world. That is one dharma. Second dharma is nivritti lakshana, what is going within, inside. Both of them is what keeps the world stable, the universe stable. And this is not just for human beings. It says, Praninam sakshat abhyudaya nishreyasa hetuhu. All forms of creatures, yaha sadharmaha brahmanadhyaihi varnibihi ashtamibihi cha shreyaha artibihi anushthiyamanaha dheerghena kalena. So let me explain this. It entails this dharma, that stability or the sustainability of this whole universe depends on the progress on two separate planes. One is the material prosperity plane, that's the pravritti lakshana, then the spiritual well-being within. Okay. Long-term following of these two alone guarantees sustenance. Irrespective of what your status, it says praninam. Whether you are, and even in a human being, whether you are young, old, householder, sannyasi, whatever it is, he is clearly defined it here. Brahmacharinaha, Brahmanadhyaihi, Varnidihi, other varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, it does not matter. ashtamibihi. Okay, whether you are in the grahastha ashtama or whether you are a brahmacharya, whether you are in vanaprastha, doesn't matter. Shreyaha, arthibihi. I want to gain a lot of material wealth. Please do. Still, you need to follow this. Or I am an anushtiyamanaha. I am in that. I am going to get into the self and start, getting deep into contemplatory world. Fantastic. Still, you need to go on this material prosperity plane. Though you cannot give that up. That means you need to keep doing karma. You need to keep doing all the things. Dirghena kalena. You need to keep doing this. Only then once the chitta shuddhi happens, only then the gnana can come in. That is kriya siddhi. That's very, very important. Nobody can give up work and go there. That is kriya siddhim. Okay, that is the one he is referring to. Okay. Now kriya siddhi happens through the mind. The next shloka clearly comes and calls on the mind. So we'll see this shloka. This is very, very interesting shloka. Kaf patyataraha dharmaha kashuchir dharmaha kaf kaf patyataraha dharmaha kashuchihi iha yasya manasam shuddhim yasya manasam shuddham kaf panditaha viveki kim visham avadhirana gurushu. Okay, so let's look at this in detail. Kaf patyataraha. What is more valuable than anything else? Dharma. Following those principles of universal sustainability. We discussed dharma in the last class. Please go through. Come back if you have more questions. We can always discuss. Okay. Kashuchihi iha. What is pure here? Purity. Shuchi is purity. That is basically cleanliness. Purity is what we associate Shuchi with. Here, what is it that is pure? One whose mind is pure is what is pure. That's all. Nothing more. So I need to elaborate this. I'll elaborate this once I discuss this in detail. Kaf panditaha, who is a pandit? Viveki. One who is always situationally present and can act with the sense of discrimination. That is what he is a Viveki. We'll discuss who a pandit is also and come up to it. Kim visham, what is poison? Avadhirana gurushu, disrespecting or dissenting the guru's teachings. Okay, that is a poison. So first, in the previous shloka, we saw you need to appoint a guru who is adhigata tattvataha shishya hitaya udyataha satatam. One who is always in the know of things. Second qualification, he or she should always be thinking about the student. So if I am a student, I need to think of a person who will do that to me. Then I say, yes, you please be then I request. How do you go there? There is a whole lot of vidhi. Shrotriya dharmanishtaha, then samitapanayaha. The Samit is a representative of all the karma. Please help me how to use this and burn my karma. Go to that teacher. Find out who that teacher will be. Acharya Shankara went all the way from Kaladi to Narmada to find the person who can teach him, who can be his guru. So find that. That is what Acharya is saying. And once you do that, do not disrespect his teachings. That is poisonous. Don't do that. Okay. Dharma we have discussed in the previous class. We'll discuss two concepts today. Manaha, that is kaha shuchihi. That is, we saw this question, no? Kaha shuchihi iha. One whose mind is very pure. Okay. Then the second one we'll say is who is Pandita. That is something that we should discuss. So first let us contemplate a little on the mind. I said I'll sit for 10 minutes and observe what all thoughts I will get. What will happen? What will happen in me? I'll just sit for 10 minutes. I said I'll sit for about a few minutes and I'll do. I was not in any meditation or anything. I just said I'll observe my thoughts. Okay. Here is what it's happening. First thing I saw some bike on the road. So then my thought went, oh, you know what? My friend maintains a similar bike sales very well. When I visited that friend, they served me some dal vada. Then, I ate dal vada on Saturday. Oh, wonderful. It was tasting well. Then it went suddenly, you know what? I went to Israel. I was there for a week, and then all that I could eat was falafel. That was tasting like dal vada, but there was a problem with it. It tasted, they made it in olive oil, and I didn't like olive oil. It was not as good as it was made in groundnut. This is my thought. This is how my thoughts are growing. I'm sure everyone is going through something like that. I started with a bike. I landed in Israel, and then I had something. I had something in Israel. Then I thought of groundnut oil. Then I'm thinking of some farmers who are growing groundnuts in Kadri, and I'm thinking how that I should advise them on something. Then suddenly I moved to some fintech and P2P peer-to-peer lending platforms, so on and so forth. This is the work of the mind. This is what the mind does. Now, if you look at this, the only objective statement in this whole thing is there is a bike on the road. That is something that's a sensory perception that I have got. Apart from this, everything else that you see is either in the past or in the future. That is basically, I ate some dal vada on some random days. In the first 2-3 statements, if you see, that is somewhere. Second thing, then it comes to the future. It is something groundnut farmers somewhere in future. I should get them to do something. All that in future. If anybody does this experiment, I am sure they'll conclude on this similar thing. They'll not think about these exact things, but you will see that your thoughts are always about something in the past or always something about in the future. There is no such thing called a thought in the present. If you are in the present, there should be no thought, essentially. This is exactly what Acharya Shankara in Tattvabodha said, Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam Manaha. So essentially, mind is, first thing, it's a stream of thoughts. If somebody asks me, where is my mind? I can't say it is here, it is here, it is here. No. There is no body part I can point to and say, this is where my mind is. I can say this is my heart. And heart and mind so probably go with each other because of the emotional connect. And the emotions usually represent through the heart. And the heart gets, emotionally, it reacts faster. Okay. So that's why it gets attached. So the mind is somewhere thought to be associated with the heart, but it is not the heart. Okay. So mind is nothing but a stream of thoughts. It exists only in past or the future, never in the present. There is no such thing called I have a thought in the present. I can have a thought in the present about the past or the future. I cannot have a thought about the present. And here, when Acharya says, one person who has a pure state of mind, what does he mean by that? We should very well qualify that. Because what is that state of mind? What is pure? Because thoughts are going to flow. There's a thought which is going to keep on flowing. No, I don't think anybody can say, no, I shall not be there. That if you have reached that, you have the state of mind. That is the state of mind. Purity refers to that where we willingly do not associate with those stream of thoughts. I will not associate myself with that thought. If there is a thought, I'll respect that thought, I'll keep it in myself, but then I'll not associate, I'll not attach myself to it and say, this should happen. I'll not bring in the likes, dislikes, all the qualities. If there is a decision to be made, there is a buddhi which acts behind that thought and says there is a decision to be made, I have to act. I'll definitely act. I'll not stop my action, but I'll not attach myself to that thought at any point in time. I'll let the stream of thoughts to flow. That's basically, I dilate the speed of thoughts. That brings us to the present state. And how I need to act, I'll be guided. And what is that guidance that I'll get? Through Shraddha and Bhakti. That is the pure state of mind that Acharya is referring to. This is a practical example. This is how he has described elsewhere as well. This is how it goes on. And this is a lot of text describe this in very, very deep detail of how to do this. Okay. First thing, Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam Manaha. That is basically the stream of thoughts exists in the past, or Sankalpa. That's for the future. Vikalpa, what happened, why did it happen, etc. It's never in the present. And the purity refers to a state of mind that willingly does not associate with the thought, stream of thoughts. Willingly gives up. And then slowly the thoughts themselves start reducing. There'll be a lot of sensory inputs, but the thoughts in the mind will start reducing. And over a period of time, you start being in the present. That's the whole idea of being a purity of mind. Chitta Shuddhaye. And you'll keep acting. The actions will keep purifying the mind. And then, since the mind is cleaner, the actions become cleaner. Once the actions become cleaner, the results of that actions become cleaner. The results of the action become cleaner, that further purifying the mind. That is what is Chitta Shuddhi, purity of mind. Shuchihi, that brings cleanliness. Once you have the cleanliness in the mind, it will automatically translate into action. Okay. Then the question is, Kaha Pandita? This is another question that comes. Here Acharya says it's Viveki. I have brought in one more definition where he describes Pandita. So that is basically in Ashocyan Anvashochastam Pragyavadamsha Bhashase Katasuna Katasuncha Nanushochandi Panditaha. This is Krishna. This is the first shloka of Krishna's teaching to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, 11th shloka of the second chapter. In that, the last word is Panditaha. Na Anushochanti Panditaha. Pandits don't think the way you are thinking. That is the just sum and summary of whatever is happening there. At that point, Acharya describes the Pandita. Panda Atma Vishaya Buddhihi Yesham Tehi Panditaha. This is Acharya Shankara Bhashya. In that he says, Panda, if you go to these religious places, you find a lot of these pandas. So definitely not to be confused with those pandas. So one who is well established in the Atman, which is beyond the perception of the mind, they are the Panditas. That is where Viveka comes from. The discriminatory sense originates from there. Well established in the self, always acts wisely. Hence, I should add a hence here. With the highest sense of discrimination is always there. Okay. Since your discrimination sense is always there, you are situationally ever present. Hence, there is a purity of mind. Okay. So, this is what is Acharya Shankara's definition of a Pandita. Okay. So, we have covered about 3 shlokas, 3 Q&A shlokas. I will just touch upon the next one and we'll stop there, and then we will take question answers. There are a lot of questions I can see. So, Kim samsare saram bahushopi vichintyamanam idameva. Sorry. Kim samsare saram bahushaha api vichintyamanam idam eva. The second question is, Kim manujeshvishtamam swapara hitaya udyatam janma. So I'll just touch upon this. Next class we'll continue with the same shloka. They're not going to see this in great detail. What is the essence of materialistic life? Samsare saram. Kim samsare saram? Bahushaha api vichintyatam idam eva. This is a question that alone must be contemplated again and again by everyone. So he says, I'm not going to give you the answer. Contemplate. That is the answer given. Okay. Second question is, Kim manujeshu ishtatamam? What is most desirable of human beings? A life that is dedicated to benefiting oneself and others. This is the question. This is the answer. So I'll just stop here for now. Okay. So we can take some questions for the next 15 minutes, and then we can continue in the next class. Okay. So please raise your hands. Let me just go to this. Some of these are already typed out. Bahuka's policy is implemented in many countries. Yes, that is propagated through all forms of media and all forms of communication that's available. Okay, who is asking these questions and who is answering? Good question. So this is Acharya Shankara himself is asking the question and is answering it himself. So he comes from the school of Purva Pakshi. So this Purva Pakshi's role is to question and then Uttara Pakshi is to give the answer. So that is where he is just putting that question answer to himself. Okay. Patiyan. Okay. Patu. So that which makes us razor sharp, or in some sense, that which will endorse, empower us. The right word here is empower us. Patiyan. Okay. Where is well-being in the shloka? I think that is in the, they are asking about the first shloka. I will tell you where that well-being is. Okay. So Artha sadhana, means of well-being. Artha sadhana is what I made it as means of well-being. Okay. Then can we equate this to perceivable and non-perceivable? Yeah, that's what I said as cognitive and incognitive. So we can't ignore his deeds to lay her as a pawn. Yeah, that is true. Yudhishthira was following Swadharma. He did not have the idea of the universal dharma, so hence the challenge that came about. Yes, Bahuka's policy has answered that. Present society, I have not seen these special symbols earlier. Yeah, Devanagari. Okay, I'll explain this in a minute. Hold on. Yeah, thank you. What does it mean? Acharya and Shishyas. Acharya. Okay, is it a thoughtless state? No, purity of mind is not necessarily a thoughtless state. It's where the state is, you're not attaching yourself with the thought, but acting with a sense of discrimination. That is what is purity of mind. And then automatically right thoughts will start moving through it. Okay. Clear and mind in the present. That is a good way of putting it. Yes. Quietening of the mind by dilating, you mentioned. Okay. So when you get into a lot of these, when you don't associate yourself with the thoughts, essentially you're acting, but in some sense you're not relating, saying why did the likes, dislikes, dualities are not getting associated with the thought. When the duality is not getting associated, it means it is at some level getting ignored. So the moment it starts getting ignored, it will start slowing down. Slower, less number of thoughts start coming. So that is what I meant by it. Okay. Clarify or summarize the relationship between Chitta Shuddhi and Kari Shuddhi. This will take up in the next class. Monica Mohalia has asked. We'll answer this because a lot of things will come in Chitta. I have to introduce Chitta to begin with. So hold on to that. It is very important to establish the relationship. We'll explain that. Okay. Recommend a book. It will be helpful to follow the lessons. For now, I'll be putting up the PDFs. I have 2 books in mind, but hold on, I'm not yet finalized on the right book. I need to go through them and put it out. I'll put it out in some time. Moksha sadhana is equal to Chitta Shuddhi. As I said, Monica Mollia will discuss this in more detail. Self-talk of the Acharya, yes. In the course page. In the course page, this presentation I'll upload there, it will be available to you. Shloka will not be available because I need to pull that out from archives and it is not very well written. I'll pull it out. Okay. Other than 5 gurus, can anyone else be a guru? Yes, that Acharya is one who can be any number of people, no? So that is what comes to Acharya. Okay. We'll take some questions now. Okay. Srivat Shankara Valluri.
Namaskaram, sir.
Namaskaram.
Is it audible?
Yes, audible.
The more I know, the less questions I have. And the less I know, I have more questions.
So Gnana is all about knowing everything about nothing.
Yes. And the question, sir, the dharma sustainability. See, these 2 things are very, very difficult to understand and more difficult to implement.
So I have explained
no.
this in the class.
One second, let me finish. So what I should know for me to follow dharma, simply, without getting into all these the difficult things and all that, I want to apply dharma. So what is simply, what are the do's, what are the don'ts? Dharma. So I should know clearly, not only me, everybody should to be with dharma. So how is it, how can I know what is dharma, what I have to follow, what I should not follow? Number one. Number two, sustainability. You said sustainability means that which sustains.
Correct.
That is there. Dharma is varying. Suppose as a father, my dharma is different. As a son, my dharma is different. Is it like that? Yes. Or is it a permanent thing?
Okay.
So some of the questions, the more questions are there. I will ask later, sir. But for the time being, I want to ask these questions.
Okay. Okay. Let me answer that by saying, there is what is called swadharma. As you said, as a father, you have some responsibilities. As a son, you have some responsibility. As for yourself, you have some responsibilities. Following that is your swadharma. You need to do that.
So sorry, sir. So sorry for interrupting. No, swadharma. How do you know what my swadharma is? How do you know? In swadharma, everybody says follow your swadharma, follow your swadharma. What is my swadharma? What is anybody's swadharma? How anybody knows what their swadharma is?
That I'm just coming to, hold on. Let me just complete. So the thing is that, what has happened over the past 200 to 50 years is that we have muddled things up. That is where the family lineage and the family system becomes very important. A lot of what was traditionally available to us and we were respectfully following became blind rituals rather than with a lot of explanation. When it becomes blind ritualistic without a known sense, two things happen. Either we keep following it because we respect something and go on, or we start blind questioning without understanding why we are questioning as well. And that falls off. So this has very badly affected the Indian society in a lot of ways. Okay. So a lot of traditions that were coming through, we don't understand why we are doing. I'll give a simple example. There is this whole, in a marriage, you show the husband and wife star, that Vasishtha and Arundhati. And most of this ritual happens in the morning when Arundhati and Vasishtha are not even visible. Yeah. Okay. The real reason behind that is that, there's a binary star. Arundhati and Vasishtha are binary star, and it's a very unique binary star. In most of the binary stars, one of the stars is very heavy and the other one is very light. So what happens is one star starts moving around the other. Whereas in Arundhati and Vasishtha, it's an equally weighted stars. Essentially, both are moving around each other. That's a symbolic representation of how your married life should be. That is, respect each other, go around each other, complement each other's activities. Unfortunately, we have brought it down to a ritual. And that is done in the broad daylight at 11 o'clock in the morning. I don't even understand why they do it. If this concept is not explained, it becomes a problem. We have lost a lot of concepts because of this. Okay. So what is my swadharma to begin with? I need to contemplate now. I have to go back and start contemplating and start doing it. And then I need to come up with it and then reconcile with what was happening. And that hard work, now we have to redo it in a lot of ways. I agree with you on that front. Okay. I do not know what is my swadharma to begin with itself. Okay. And there's a whole lot of external influence which is saying, don't do these things because so many misconceptions. Okay. So given this, there is a challenge, but having taken that up, it does not mean it's an impossible task. It's a very possible task. There are a lot of people working on this and putting it out in right ways. We just need to find the right guru to lead us. That's all. Your channel point is also not the same, right? You are inaudible, sir. The positive you need to be closer to the mic. Not audible.
Whom are you asking? Me?
Yeah, idanim shruyate.
Okay. So, Swadharma, actually, okay, very difficult for me to understand that one, number one. Number two, other things, simple thing. What is dharma? How should I follow? What are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that? Not only me, for everybody. So that should, everybody should follow dharma, follow dharma. Oh, follow dharma again.
So it is not that simple. Very, very clearly, we are not a book-based religion where 10 commandments are given and we follow them. No, it does not work that way.
No, not commandment. For me to follow, for me to, no, I'm not asking 10 commandments, no. But for me, as a dharmic man, whatever, of course, I read Ramayana. I see what does he do in Ramayana, what Rama does and all that stuff. Everything I read and understand. But am I to? I try to follow all those things what he followed. But still, for me, for other people and all that, how to
So
go
first question,
about it?
I think one way to do that, I'll give you a very practical solution to this. One way to do it, whenever you read, whenever you do, is start questioning, does it apply to me? How does it apply to me? Start internally questioning. A lot of these questions have been resolved for me, at least through that. So whenever I see something, okay, this is to be done, I start questioning. What is it? What is happening? Why is it going on? How does it apply to me? In what context does this apply to me? These things resolve out a lot of things. A lot of times we need to sort of indulge in that activity.
Right, sir. Of course, try to understand. Of course, you're dealing with a very, very, very interesting topic and difficult topic, as a matter of fact, which we are very grateful to you, and we are very much with you. So, thank you very much for giving us the knowledge. Still, but we have questions. We will ask questions because that way we can clear our mind. Not that we question to see, but we want to clarify our mind, thoughts, and all this. Namaskaram, and thank you very much. Namaskaram.
Sharada Mahodaya.
Namaskaram. My question is, that we're talking of Kaha Guru. That is the first thing. And you said there are 5 in terms of hierarchy also. 5, you mentioned 5. I understand there can be more than 5. But today it is very 5, the core itself has become a big challenge to identify or even find them fit to be in the status of Guru, including sometimes people, because I need to perceive even my parents as Guru. I'm not talking about myself, but in the generation today, or even parents don't feel qualified. So, to me, a new meaning of this role to ascribe Guru's role to different, this needs to be really looked into and presented in a manner that, or even opportunities provided for people who can be, today's context I'm talking. So, there's no answer or solution, I know, but what is the thinking by people who are doing a lot of study in this dimension?
I think
This is a
we
big
need to just
question
go
for
back
me.
to the concept that Acharya has presented. That is Satatam Shishya Hitaya Udyataha. One who will constantly work towards the well-being or the welfare of his student. Take that as a principle. The moment you start asking, can I apply this principle to this person? That answer will start coming, right? It need not be just it need not just be a person. It can even be something like you can
Text
even have
also.
a book as a guru, for instance. It happens a lot of times.
Yes.
Is this guiding me in that line? So that cardinal, that eternal principle should be very clear in our minds.
Yeah.
Once we have that
Because
principle, then these are the 5 people who are always thinking about us. That is also true. See, parents don't think about anybody else. Acharya,
true.
Always there. The maternal uncle is always there with no self-interest in mind. We have that in a lot of ways, maternal uncles are there today also who do that, right? The father-in-law is usually the eldest in the house in a lot of ways. And it applies not just to women or men, it applies to both. Okay. And a lot of times in the context of men. Because the daughter given, he wants the welfare of both of you, he's going to advise you in the right ways.
I think what you said in terms of keeping the principle as the core is the key point, because that fits well with even younger generation.
Absolutely.
I get it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bhanumati Swaminathan.
Namaskaram. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Class is very interesting. So much of learning is happening. Very kind of you, and thank you so much. My doubt is, you said about Gotram. Gotram means from rishis, na? Sagotram means what does it mean? Are they from the same school, or what does it mean, Sagotram?
So if you look at our heritage, so there are a lot of rishis and rishikas who have been there. If you look at, for instance, if you look at Rig Veda, there are so many rishis and about 25 rishikas, that is the women are mentioned. Vagabrini is a good example. Okay, Devi Sukta, if you've heard of Devi Sukta. These rishis, first, they knew exactly how the principles of the universe were working. Step one. Second thing, they laid down, okay, and these are the kind of situations, these are the kind of temperaments that will be existing. And within these are the kind of actions, when pursued, will lead to certain right things. Okay. So we take them as the highest form of gurus. Okay. So these then came down to do what is called Gotrodbhava. That is their ways of following. And none of those followings are in contradiction to the other, by the way. Okay. All of them are saying exactly the same thing in different ways. That's why you'll never find two Gotras fighting over my Rishi is great or this Rishi is great. Nothing ever happens like that. All of them have that stature. So that comes down as a familial heritage that is to be carried on and taken up. Okay. So that is the idea of a Gotra. Now, of course, there is a family thing that comes. For instance, Raghuvamsha, he was from the Vasishta Gotra. And then the whole thing lineage starts from Ikshvaku and goes on. That's a DNA component, which also comes in. But over and above that, how that is fructified is coming through this rishis. So that is the whole idea, and that is more important. That is a limited point to be made.
Okay, one more thing. Hello. One
Yeah.
more thing, sir. Then
Yeah.
why it is being said that same Gotras are not should not be get married?
No, that comes for two reasons. One is the idea of a marriage is for Santana Prapti, and then you need to have the DNA matches going right. So there are many people where many Gotras and all where they'll be commonly going on. So that is where it comes from. Okay. So for instance, within the Gotra, they'll not marry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is the main reason?
that is the DNA. That is nothing more than, you don't marry between cousins, essentially.
Oh.
That's a
Thanks.
straightforward. Okay. Then Deepti.
Namaste, Mahodaya. Namaste. Are you able to listen to me?
Yes.
Am I audible? Okay. So
Yes.
I have a question. You can correct me if I am wrong. So as far as I know, formal education was limited to only one varna and to the men. So how did a society sustain which, I mean, the society did not have, or everyone in the society did not have access to formal education? Then how did the society sustain like that?
I don't. So your question is that in those days people did not have access to education. Not everybody had access to education. Only few
Yes.
had access to education. So how did the society sustain? That's your question?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. Yes.
So first of all, your understanding of the education, the statement that everybody did not have access to education is false.
Okay.
Wherever you are getting that from is very, very flawed. Next class, it's already 8:30 now. I will not show that now. Next class, I'll bring and show you. In the year 1700, all the varnas, all the ashramas, everyone were studying a subject of their choice, or at least the kula this one. Okay, I will show you with proof as to how it was. All right. So no, society cannot sustain if everybody is not educated. That's a misnomer. Everybody was strictly being educated, including women and all Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, every single person was getting educated. That's how it was going on. And India was contributing about 20% to the world's GDP just because they were doing that. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it's already 8:33. What I'll do the Mangalam. So those people who want to leave can leave. Then I'll take a couple of more questions. Okay. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिषाः को ब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनात् सदनात् सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतम् ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् हरिः ओम्. So we'll meet on the 3rd of July at 7 p.m. For those of you who want to leave, may please leave. That's fine. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure. So I will, okay, any more questions? There are a few more questions. Probably we can take some more. Shailaja.
Namaste, Mahodaya.
Namaste.
Usually elders say, I'm audible, right, Mahodaya?
Yes, you are.
The dharma varies from one yugam to another yugam. So how do we justify that? And second question, maybe it is a little silly. There is a subhashitam like Acharyat padamadatte padam sishya swamedhaya. So is it applicable to this Vedanta also?
Very much. So, okay, first let me answer the first question. Dharma changes, yes. The idea of sustainability changes from time to time. Yeah. Very simple, no? Yeah. What was sustainable 300 years ago is not sustainable anymore. Correct?
Correct.
So principles also have to adapt to that.
Yeah. But you said
Something
it is Nitya, Sanatana.
Nitya Viveka Vichara. We'll discuss that in some detail at some point. But what is Sanatana is Dharma. That what is sustainable, the definition of sustainable itself will not change.
Okay.
Right. Accordingly, principles will keep on moving as the need is. Okay. Coming to the second part. Acharyat padamadatte. Then with your peers you learn 1/4, Swamedaya 1/4, and so on and so forth, right?
As the time passes, we learn.
Experience is 1/4. Yeah, it's absolutely true. So essentially, what it is saying is, it is not talking about the concept or the ideas that are taught. It is talking about the reinforcement of that concepts and application of those concepts.
Okay.
So I'll give a simple example. You come from a science background. What sort of a background do you come from? I'll give you that example. Hello?
Yeah, so, tell me, Mahodaya.
You are from a science background or you're from a commerce background? What sort of a background are you?
Science background.
You're from a science background. Let's take the simple example of Newton's laws of motion. Okay.
I
can teach you Newton's laws of motion in the classroom.
Yeah.
Right? But only when you throw a paper down and a stone down that you will realize that you know what? Newton's laws of motion are applicable, but they apply in different ways in different contexts.
Correct.
But the concept is still the same. It applies to the paper also, it applies to the stone also.
Stone also, yeah.
Correct? So that is what concept is not something that is coming from your peers or it is not coming from you, it is not coming from somewhere else. It's coming from the teacher only.
Okay.
So that conceptually what is being taught, the universal principles are coming from the Guru.
Got it.
Right? Okay.
Thank you, Mahodaya.
Thank you. Agni.
Agni nicely explained here, that is how to identify the Acharya and Swadharma also.
How to identify the Acharya? I said the principle.
One small doubt. In Mahabharata, following Swadharma only because he wanted his son should be the king. He wanted his son should be the king. his inner minds. See, as per Mahabharata,
Your voice is
Dhritarashtra is.
breaking. I can't hear you.
Just a minute, I am just using the earphone.
What I'll do, I'll take one question from somebody else and then come back to you. Is that okay? Sarita Garg.
Mahodaya, my understanding is that whatever Guru teaches you, that's the principle is ultimate. But to my understanding, how it applies and how do I understand, that's where I can ask many questions and try to understand those things. And there is a thin line between argument and questions. So, so to maintain that balance, what should be the approach? I mean,
So our Shastras are very clear about this fact. This is not something very debatable. This is very clear. There is what is called Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. Essentially, hear out what is happening first. Once you hear, go back and contemplate as to what you have understood. And deeply contemplate. Get more information, contemplate, go on and on and on. You know, it is like the ruminating cud of the cow. You first eat fast, then you start ruminating in your mind.
Yeah.
If you have questions, then please come back. Ask as many questions as you want, all are accepted. Then you go back and do what is called nididhyasana or apply that in practice. Okay. So if you want, asking a question will come up with how much you are thinking through, how much you are trying to assimilate. Okay, and that happens with clarity of mind. That is where I said, clarity of mind and how do you slow down your thoughts and then understand. That is where these are the principles that will allow you to do that. Does that help?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Agni Mahodaya, are you back?
Hello.
You are muted again. Okay.
Can we follow the dharma as per the as per Sri Gita or as per the Dharma Shastra, what is being mentioned in the books or Acharya? Can we follow now strictly? Is it possible nowadays?
Good question.
Or we can only yeah.
So the principle is very simple.
Or we can only follow the Sudharma. Yeah.
Okay,
Or only we can
point. I'll make one very simple thing here. No, it is not like that. It's not as simple as I'm following or not following. A little question should be a one step higher. Do I conceptually understand the principle that I'm following? Do I understand why I am doing something? And is it very clear to me why I am doing that? If that is there, then I can contextualize the framework. Like somebody asked, Guru. There are, I described 5 gurus as examples. Are these people really applicable today? Is this principle strictly applicable today? So I need to go back and apply that principle. Shishya hitaya udyataha satatam. That is always thinking about the welfare of the student. Is this person always thinking about their welfare? Similarly, while following something, can I ask this question? Why am I doing this? What am I doing? Why am I doing? How am I doing? And to what ends am I doing this? If we ask this question very clearly and get this clarity in our mind, it becomes very clear. Is this applicable today or is it not applicable? If we reduce it to, say, a ritualistic format, that is where challenge comes. You start with Tadikravano, Karishan, Jishno, Rashnasya, Bhajina. That is that Dadi that you do when you do Abhisheka, you pour curd to it.
Yeah.
That Dadi versus the Dadi described there versus this Dadi have
Even for
no
Sandhya
connection at all.
Vandana. Yeah.
If you make it ritualistic, it becomes a problem. But if you understand why you are doing it, how you are doing it, to purify yourself, soham bhavena pujaye.
Yeah.
I and that Atma in that Murti is one. So whatever I do to myself, I'm going to do to that. If you accept that as the framework, then it becomes, the puja then gets a very different meaning altogether. So everything that we are doing needs to be brought to why am I doing, how am I doing, for what am I doing. If I don't have the answer, probably refer to people and ask those questions who will willingly answer. So that is the way to go about it.
Okay, Mahodaya. Thank you.
Does it
Thank you very
answer the
much for
question?
my, yes, you have answered it in a nice way. And can I put a second question, or it will be too late?
Probably I'll just wait because there was one Anjana Mahodaya asked the question. Anjana Kulkarni.
Already it is 2:45, 8:45.
Yeah, I think we'll
So,
stop here. Maybe next week we'll take the question,
yeah,
Mahodaya.
yes, next week. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Dhanyavadaha.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we can
Dhanyavadaha.
take this next.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, Vadatu.
Hello. Am I
Yes,
audible?
yes, you are audible.
Yeah, my question to you, all these scriptures and all acharyas and saints try to explain the things or shastras or Vedantas in order to one can get clarity of mind, right? Because mind always operates on based on our past experiences and memories.
Correct.
So, if this scripture, what is Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika, whatever answers we are getting, if we apply to all our thoughts and all, there are two types of progresses one can expect, right? Shreyas and prayas.
Yes.
So, when we apply these answers and questions in understanding, will that clarity will come to one's mind at the end of the course?
Okay, I'll answer that differently to you. See, in any shastra, as I was just mentioning this, there is what is called Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Right?
Right,
Shravana is hearing. I will do that part. I'll help you with that part. Now,
correct.
in most cases, what happens is
Hmm.
we are so, in this fast paced, it's faster than the, in my, this one, it's faster than the Mumbai locals.
Correct,
Everything has to go that fast. So
correct.
what we do is, from Shravana, we
Hmm.
blindly start applying it, taking it to Nididhyasana.
Right.
The problem starts there. It is not with the
Ah,
Shastras, with the teachings.
ah,
That middle step of Manana,
ah,
if we spend a lot more time in Manana, that will
ah.
lead us to the right path of Nididhyasana.
Oh,
Most of
okay.
the time, we skip that Manana and go to Nididhyasana straight. And then
Ah,
say, no,
ah,
this is all not applicable. Contextually, is all useless, not worth it.
ah,
Let's time. Then we come up with wrong decisions because we have applied it wrong.
ah. So confusion starts there. If we do right manana, then only we will come to conclusion that which concept we have to take for study as per our mental
That is how our this one
ability.
is structured, and that's where
Okay.
the course also, in a lot of ways, will be lot about manana, and a lot of our engagement, and if you want
Ah,
certificate at all, all testing will be on
okay.
manana. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Dhanyawadaha. Okay. Thank
Dhanyawad.
you. We'll end the course. We'll meet next week. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.